This cycle is different than the last three. If you want to take a look at,
it's not about if our market's going up or down.
Larry Fink is now running, I believe, the World Economic Forum.
Hey there, future millionaires. Welcome back to the channel. It's so great to have you here with me today. I hope you're doing amazing, no matter where you're watching from around the world. Today, we're diving into some exciting XRP news, and I've got to kick things off with something pretty incredible. A massive $1.3 million RLUSD deposit that just hit the RLUSD treasury. Now, I'm sharing this because I keep seeing comments from people claiming that Ripple has supposedly slowed down or stopped minting RLUSD. But here's the thing. From everything I'm seeing, they haven't slowed down one bit. The RLUSD activity is still going strong, and this deposit is proof of that. XRP, BNB, Solana, and other altcoins hold on to long-term support, despite the massive wipeout. And it's, when you look at XRP, it held its support very well. So did a lot of other altcoins. Even with that major crash, everything seemed to bounce back quickly. You know what's crazy? People were out there saying, oh man, this is going to take days, maybe even weeks to bounce back. But guess what? It's already happening right before our eyes. And this is just the beginning, folks. Just wait until we see the real breakout unfold. That's when things are going to get really interesting. I'm still seeing people in the comments saying this cycle is done. It's over. Pack it up and go home. But here's what they're missing. This cycle hasn't even truly started yet. We're still in the early stages, and the best is yet to come. $15 million, $15 billion Bitwise Matt Hogan says the real bull story for crypto is just a slow-moving freight train. Take a listen.
What's on the horizon? Maybe some government, maybe finally getting some domestic regulation or clarity on what it's going to look like. Is that what's next for Bitcoin?
So for a short-term catalyst, for sure, progress on the Clarity Act in Congress, if we see that, if the government reopens, would be positive for crypto. But the real bull story for crypto is just the slow-moving freight train of institutional investment. I've probably done a half dozen meetings with institutional investors and financial advisors over the last 2 days. None of them talked about what happened over the weekend. None of them talked about the liquidations Melton talked about. They talked about this need to get exposure to crypto. They're currently on 0. They're going to 5%. That's the big story. It's a slow-moving bull market, but it's a very strong long-term bull market from my view.
So here's what I keep hearing. People pushing this idea that the current cycle is going to go on forever. And honestly, I think they've got it completely wrong. Here's my take. I believe this cycle is going to come to an end for Bitcoin. But here's where it gets interesting. We need to keep our eyes on what happens with utility-driven cryptocurrencies. That's where the real opportunity lies. Now think about this for a second. The only reason we're still seeing massive inflows into Bitcoin ETFs right now is because XRP spot ETFs haven't launched yet. People don't have that alternative option. But once institutions have a real choice between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, that's when everything changes. I'm talking about a complete game changer for institutional investors. They'll finally have access to a utility-driven crypto through an ETF structure, and that could shift the entire landscape. Okay, this is huge news that everyone's talking about right now. The US government just seized over 127,000 Bitcoin, and get this, that's more Bitcoin than most entire countries hold in gold reserves. Let that sink in for a moment. Now here's where it gets really interesting. With Trump's new executive order in play, this Bitcoin could theoretically end up going straight into the strategic Bitcoin reserve, instead of just being auctioned off like usual. I'm seeing people everywhere celebrating this news, getting super excited about it. But hold on a second. Let me give you the reality check on what this actually means. Now wait a minute, there's something really important we need to talk about here. There were actual victims in all of this, real people who lost their money. So here's my question. Why doesn't that Bitcoin go back to the people who actually got scammed in the first place? And actually, I need to give you guys a correction here because I got some updated info from Grok. The US hasn't actually seized this Bitcoin yet. What happened today is that the Department of Justice filed a civil forfeiture complaint to try and claim those 127,271 Bitcoin. Here's what we know. This Bitcoin has been traced back to Chen Zi's pig butchering scams. They've confirmed this through blockchain analysis that links the proceeds directly to his operations. It's all detailed right there in the filing. The interesting part? These funds appear to be held in self-custody addresses, not on exchanges. which is exactly what enabled them to do this on-chain tracing without having prior custody. So here we are. We already know this was part of a massive scam. So again, I have to ask, why shouldn't this Bitcoin go back to the actual people who were scammed out of their hard-earned money? ... I think the government taking this Bitcoin is wrong in so many ways. Make those people whole. This cycle is different than the last three. There is no 4-year cycle. Take a listen.
This cycle is different than the last three. If you want to take a look at Chinese credit and US credit, which leads me to say there is no 4-year cycle, at least right now. And so we are in sort of a extended cycle. We're going to call it New World Order, change in, trade situation, whatever, right? And so I am of the opinion that this cycle ends when the Trump administration ends, because it'll be a reaction against Trump, whether you like it or not, doesn't really matter. And, that's a 2028, late 2027 story when the rhetoric of the opposing Team Blue Democrats starts to cause questions in investors' minds. Oh, what if they win? And therefore, what if things change? Therefore, I should take some chips off the table.
So his theory is that this cycle is tied directly to politics. Basically, as long as Trump is sitting in the White House, he thinks this bull run will keep going strong. What do you guys think about that? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on this. Now, here's where I stand. I still think this cycle is going to come to an end for Bitcoin. I'm calling it right now. But here's what I'm really excited about. I think we're about to witness an absolutely incredible alt season. But then comes the big question. What happens next? We need to start paying attention to utility. Is utility actually what's pushing XRP's price higher? What's really driving XRP if it keeps climbing even after other altcoins start crashing down? Look, it's still too early to say for sure. But here's what I think is going to break that traditional 4-year cycle. And it's something none of these analysts want to talk about. Real utility and actual use cases. Think about it this way. The world isn't going to adopt something that's slow and ridiculously expensive when they have other options. People want fast transactions, and they want them cheap. That's just common sense. And that's exactly why I believe we're going to see these ISO cryptocurrencies achieve full-scale, real-world adoption. It just makes sense. Now, speaking of staying power, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink just made a really interesting comment that I think you guys need to hear. He's saying it's not even about whether we're in a crypto or tech bubble right now. That's not the question we should be asking. According to Fink, the real key is staying in the market and riding out the entire cycle. That's a pretty powerful statement coming from someone who manages trillions of dollars. Let me play this for you so you can hear it straight from him.
It's not about if our market's going up or down. Is there a bubble in crypto or is there a bubble in technology? It's about being in the market throughout the cycle.
So basically, what Larry Fink is telling us here is simple. Don't sell. Hold your positions and ride it out. But here's where I have to be honest with you guys. In my opinion, Bitcoin is still sitting in a massive bubble right now. And here's the thing that's really concerning me. It's being propped up by Tether. And let's be real, that's essentially fake money backing it. Now, I know this might be controversial, but I believe Tether is eventually going to collapse. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when that day comes, Bitcoin is going down with it, whether Bitcoin maximalists want to admit it or not. Think about it this way. If you can't pass basic regulations, if you can't even get through MiCA compliance in Europe, how are you going to pass regulatory standards in any other major country? It's just not going to happen. Here's the real problem we're facing right now. There are no clear regulations, not in the United States and not in most other countries either. It's like we're all flying blind here. And here's something a lot of people don't realize. Crypto wallets aren't actually anonymous like everyone thinks. They're completely traceable. So if your name is tied to your holdings and you suddenly get sued or audited, guess what? You're completely exposed. But here's where it gets interesting. A properly formed LLC can create a protective layer between you and your assets. We're talking about more privacy, way less risk, and much cleaner transactions overall. If you're a crypto investor, you should definitely be considering an LLC. Think of it as putting up a wall between you and your wealth. It's like having a security system for your finances. And when tax season rolls around, with an LLC, you can write off tons of things that you simply cannot write off as just a personal investor. It's a game changer. Here's my advice. Every single cryptocurrency investor should be looking into this. Set up an appointment with a lawyer. Talk about LLCs. Discuss the advantages. Also, chat with an accountant about it too. Why the urgency? Because we're entering a time where people are going to be seriously on the hook for taxes, and you want to get ahead of that curve before it's too late. Now, I'm talking about what happens when people start cashing out their crypto. And this actually comes from a question I got from Bale. He says, you cannot pay taxes on XRP when you hold it in a private wallet and convert it to USDC and withdraw the USDC. He's asking me to correct him if he's wrong. Well, here's the thing. He is 100% wrong, and I need to clear this up because this is a dangerous misconception. Listen carefully. Even if your crypto is sitting in a private wallet, the very second you convert it to a stablecoin, boom, that's a taxable event. It doesn't matter if you actually withdraw that stablecoin to US dollars or not. It doesn't matter what currency you convert to. The moment you make that conversion, the IRS considers it a taxable transaction. And here's what's really going to surprise some of you. There are way more taxable events in crypto than most people realize. Even when you swap from one cryptocurrency to another, let's say you sell XRP to buy Ethereum, that's also a taxable event. A lot of people think they're flying under the radar, but the reality is very different. Let me give you another example. Say you sell your XRP and buy XLM instead. Guess what? That's a taxable event too. And here's where it gets tricky. Even if you go directly from XRP to XLM without ever touching US dollars, the IRS still considers that a taxable event. There's no getting around it. So BlackRock CEO Larry Fink believes we're just at the very beginning of tokenizing everything. And I mean everything. We're talking real estate, stocks, bonds, you name it. But here's what Larry Fink revealed that should really make you think twice about this whole tokenization push. When your assets become digital, here's the catch. Digital assets can be programmed. And when assets can be programmed, they can also be restricted. Think about what that really means for a second. Restrictions equal total control over your wealth. You might technically own these tokens, but in reality, you'll own nothing that you actually control. Meanwhile, Larry and BlackRock, they'll own everything that matters because they control the entire system that manages all these tokens. That's the future they're actively building right now, whether we like it or not. And you know what? This is absolutely true. I've actually shown you guys the dark side of tokenization in my previous videos, so if you missed those, definitely go back and check them out. That you could even hear from Whitney Webb. Take a listen to this.
Larry Fink is now running, I believe, the World Economic Forum. He's acting chairman, and in addition to saying that everything, will be tokenized, he's said that everything will soon be on the same universal digital ledger or database, and that everything on that database will have a unique identifier number. So for you as an individual, your identifier number will presumably be your digital ID or directly linked to that. But everything will have a digital ID. The tokenization agenda in particular seeks to tokenize not just assets that we traditionally think of, like real estate, for example, or gold, or physical assets as well as digital assets like Bitcoin. There's a major effort connected with people like Fink, and also people like Mark Carney, who's now Prime Minister of Canada, to tokenize the natural world and transform it into financial assets. And there was an attempt to do this to an extent under the Biden administration, I believe through the Department of Interior, with natural asset corporations, but that has not gone away. And there are groups, for example, one of the creators of the ETF model originally, which BlackRock now owns iShares. His name is Peter Knez, I think is how you pronounce it. He's trying to turn the Amazon rainforest into a digital commodity, sort of similar to Bitcoin in terms of like the scarcity idea that each hectare of the Amazon rainforest would represent a token, and then financialize it that way, and then each hectare would then have its unique identifier, right, on the blockchain, and would be serviced by surveillance drones and all sorts of stuff. So even our most like natural, the places we conceptualize as the most natural places on Earth, these people want to come in, place surveillance technology and tokenize it and put it on a blockchain and use it to I would argue in the case particularly of natural asset corporations and the group behind it, the intrinsic exchange group, they just want to open up a huge new asset class. They call it nature's opportunity, so that they can continue engaging in the same type of bad behavior that, for example, brought us the 2008 financial crisis. By quintupling basically the amount of assets currently in play. It's
I had a
very insane.
I had a guy who worked very, very, very high up at Citibank, and he told me around 2008. He said, "Glenn, don't worry about the financial system." And I'm like, And he said, we're never going to go broke. I mean, do you know how much just the national parks are worth? And I looked at him and said, "Are you seriously telling me that we should commoditize the national parks?" And he said, "It's going to happen." And I wonder now if this is what he was talking about. If it was just a digital, not actually selling them, it's just a digital commoditization of our parks.
Yeah. So apply this now to the phrase that we all heard during the COVID era, "You'll own nothing and be happy." Well,
yes.
There's certain people that want to own everything, and that includes things that have never been able to be owned before, that were considered things like the public commons, like rivers, lakes, the ocean itself, natural forests, all sorts of it. These people want to put all of that into the financial system, fractionalize it, tokenize it, and sell pieces of it around. Use it to speculate on. I mean, it's very bonkers. So,
and honestly, he's not wrong about this. Even the World Economic Forum came out and said that tokenization represents an absolutely massive $837 trillion opportunity by 2030. Think about that number for a second. But here's where it gets really wild. They want to tokenize everything, and I mean everything. Water, mountains, trees, literally anything you can think of will become a tokenized asset. And get this, they even want to tokenize people. Yeah, you heard that right. That's where your digital ID comes into play. Say you have an amazing work history and perfect medical records. Well, congratulations, you'd be considered a valuable asset. So even when you're just going to work every day, doing your job, somehow other people would be making money off of that. It's the same concept with waterways, with boats traveling through shipping channels day after day. All of it gets tokenized as part of the supply chain. I've always said this, if you own your house right now, in the future that house will become a tokenized asset. You'll need to own 100% of the tokens associated with your property if you actually want to truly own it. Sound familiar? This is exactly that "you will own nothing and be happy" agenda that the World Economic Forum has been pushing for years. And guess what? Larry Fink is the co-chair at the World Economic Forum. He basically took over for Klaus Schwab, but he's pushing the exact same agenda. I mean, come on. Did anyone really think Larry Fink wasn't going to end up part of the World Economic Forum? The guy works directly for the elites. I still believe BlackRock is essentially an elite shell company. Now here's something interesting. The same thing applies to Ripple. Brad Garlinghouse has tons of ties to the elites. And yep, he's also a member of the World Economic Forum. But here's the thing. Don't let that stop you from investing in XRP. Why? Because they already see XRP as the future. You already know they're going to use XRP globally to move value around the world. And when that happens, you're going to get rich from this. Maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to break away from the slavery system they're trying to create. You'll be able to transact on different rails, outside of universal basic income and central bank digital currencies. Even President Trump's whole idea of, we're not going to have a CBDC, but we're going to have a digital dollar. Let's be real here. All that is a stablecoin issued by someone other than the Fed. It's still essentially a central bank digital currency, just coming from a private entity. And guess what? It's still going to be programmable money. That's exactly why you see programmability being talked about everywhere all the time. Clawback features on the XRP ledger? Those are things that banks want. Those are things governments are going to demand. If they want to claw back some cash, they need to have that capability built right in. You can all see how this whole push for tokenization coming from BlackRock isn't exactly a good thing. Tokenization in the right hands? Absolutely incredible. But in the wrong hands? All of a sudden, you will own nothing and be happy. But here's the beautiful part. Most of us will already be rich and happy because we're XRP investors. So until that day comes, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. All right, everyone, that's a wrap on this video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.